Lads, welcome back to the 4th episode of Season 2 for the Havre Creator Cast. Today's guest is going to be SpankoYGO. I have never actually done anything with him before in terms of content, but I think this is overall a very exciting podcast and maybe it'll open up some new potential in the future. So anyways, let's go ahead and just hop right into the episode today and see what Spanko has to say. I guess for people listening, if you want to, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself briefly, what kind of content you make, how the channel's doing, stuff like that. Just kind of give a brief introduction of yourself.
All right, well, guys, I'm SpankoYGO. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me on the podcast. Yeah, I do a lot of rogue style content. What I like to do is I'm a very competitive player, but I know that it kind of gets boring when you see the same old cookie cutter like meta decks. So what I try to do is I try to build decks on my channel where they're more or less rogue decks, but you can build them and try to play them at a competitive level. And then on top of that, I do stuff like vlogs, shorts, just all around kind of stuff. And I really try to focus on everything. So because I enjoy a lot of different aspects of this game, and I really want other people to enjoy those aspects as well. So yeah, I try to do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like kind of exactly what we do on Fusion YGO as well, as we try to take like rogue or like janky decks and try to make them playable in the current meta game and just see what people think of them. So like we're kind of on the same page in that regard. A lot of the same stuff. We don't necessarily do as many like vlogs or anything. I noticed you do some news videos here and there as like new stuff comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't do that too often. I know though I do have a following for specific decks. Like I know my Altergeist following, my Dino following is pretty big. So whenever Altergeist and Dino gets new stuff, specifically Dino, because like I feel like I'm almost like I don't want to say known as the resident Dino guy, but I do a lot of Dino content. So whenever Dino stuff comes out, or there is support for decks that like are really popular on my channel, I'll go out of my way to do some new stuff, but typically, yeah, I don't do that too often.
Yeah, no, you're definitely the Dino guy. Every time I look at my sub feed and there's a Dino video, it's you. 9 out of 10 times, it's you.
Yeah, I just took Dino to locals the other day, and I was editing the vlog before this, so yeah, it's always Dino.
Yeah, I mean Dinos are good, man. Especially with the scrap engine. I'm partial to that myself because I'm the scrap guy, but
yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, your channel's been popping off. I think I've been subbed to you since you were, oh God, probably about 2K, and now you're over 10K, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. We actually just hit 10K, I think earlier this week.
I think it was Friday, if I remember right.
Yeah, I don't know when people are going to be seeing this, but yeah, on sometime early May.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is not coming out for a few weeks. So it was about like May 19th ish is what I remember, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, ish. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, no, the channel's doing well. Thankfully, obviously, the first thing I want to say is I wouldn't be here without any one of you guys listening, and you as well. Like, it's definitely been a journey. I'm super appreciative of everything, and I've been blessed to be able to grow the following that I have. But I just love doing what I do, and I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. If you really just love doing something and you can just put your effort into it, I feel like people will see your passion, and that will lead to growth, right? Whether it leads to, in my case, I got to 10K. I mean, I don't want to stop here. I have goals to go even further. But yeah, it really just goes in, it shows in your content. If you really love something, then people will see that you love it.
Oh, 100%. And I guess on that kind of line of thinking, are you planning on this as like a full-time gig, or is this just kind of like a hobby for you that you just enjoy doing?
So I love it. It's definitely, I can't say it's a full-time gig right now, but yeah, definitely if I could make it a full-time gig, that would be the ultimate goal. I mean, my goal always for the last maybe 6-7 years. So I got into this game in 2015.
Oh, okay.
And do you mind if I go on a little tangent about
100%,
like, everything?
Man, you're free. You're good.
Because for me, it's weird. It's just it's like an amalgamation of just different things that happened that kind of led me to where I want to be today. So just to get back on what I was saying earlier, one of my goals has always been to own my own card shop and like have my own store and share this hobby that I love and stuff with so many other people, right? And so to get there, I thought, one of the coolest ways to do it is if I had become a content creator, grow a little bit of a following, and then that could help support, the dream of becoming a card store owner. So when I started this game in 2015, my two favorite YouTubers first at that time there wasn't that many YouTubers, all right? So
Oh yeah.
I think Team Sam was just coming up at that time. I remember I did a deck profile with Team Sam when I topped with like Pepe, and I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing ever. But yeah, at that time it was like Simply Unlucky and Mega Capital G were like my favorite YouTubers. And so with Simply Unlucky, his thing was always card openings, and his goal was kind of to open his own store, which obviously he's done now. He's really successful. So I guess I took a little bit of that. And then from Mega Capital G, you know, he's like a historian of the game. So I really got into and dove deep into like the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it just kind of grew my love for the game so much. So that I thought, wait a second, why don't I become a content creator? Kind of follow Simply Unlucky steps, but I don't want to do pack openings. Like for me, pack openings weren't like my favorite thing to do. I do love opening packs, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that kind of content isn't my favorite kind of content. I do it here and there, but yeah, it's not my favorite kind. So I was like, how can I do this? I still like the game. I still like to be competitive in the game. So I was like, you know what? Let's try different things out. Yeah, and I found something that kind of worked. You know, and I'm here today. And so yeah, hopefully this becomes a full-time thing in the future. I love what I do. I love everyone who supports me. Like it's so crazy that when I upload a video and like people give me so much like love and stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's really happening. That's really a thing. Like I don't know, it makes me feel good.
It is surreal once you get that audience built, and it's funny that you say that like your ultimate goal is to open up a card store, because that was something I had considered a few years back. Actually, was opening up one in my town, because at the time we didn't have any. And like 6 months after I had that thought, and it was like I had an event at like a local business and whatnot just to kind of test the waters. About 6 months after that, I hear about somebody opening up a card store. I'm like, well, guess I don't got to worry about it now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that shouldn't kill the dream, though.
Well, like it wasn't necessarily so much of a dream as it was I wanted to be able to play competitive stuff in town, and there was just nowhere to do it. But I mean, that's actually what got me into playing and also creating content, because before that, I grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh! And then I stopped playing. Like I never played competitively. I still haven't. But I played up until about the start of pen format, and then I kind of dipped out, and then I didn't come back till the end of 2019 when I started doing all that stuff. So it's just interesting to hear like the possibility of opening a card store in relation to creating content is actually like not too uncommon of a thing. I find that funny.
Yeah, it's definitely a way. Like for me, like it's a way also to express, like I said kind of earlier, like to express my love for the game and being able to share that. Like I even thought of it, like it's so weird. Like, you know, when you have like dreams and you have things, like you start thinking of everything. So like for me, I'm like, you know, if I open my own card store, I'd have like a content corner in my card store where it's like where other content creators who are like up and coming or want to become like content creators, they have that they can you know, go there and film deck profiles, film whatever they want to film. And like I just want to include a little bit of everything in that card shop. And that's just because like there's so many different things in this game that I love, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, again, that's like a long-term goal. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, but you know, 100%. I'm still having fun.
Yeah, no, that's the best part about it, is just being able to enjoy yourself, and definitely try to avoid burnout and things like that. And speaking of, I think I remember seeing you say something about like earlier this year, I think it was, that you were going to try to do uploading 5 days a week.
So I actually started that in, I want to say like August of 2022.
Oh, wow. Been that long.
Yeah, so I've been uploading 5 days a week, pretty much like Monday to Friday. Since then, I took a little bit of a break in January because I was on a vacation for like 2 weeks. But yeah, I've pretty much been uploading 5 days a week for the last like 6 or 7 months. At first, I started off with like 5 like long form videos, so deck profiles, combo videos, all that kind of stuff. Now it's been a little bit more focused towards like the shorts. I do 5 shorts a week, no matter what. And then I try to up the quality of like my deck profiles, up the quality of my other content. So like, you know, I'm not uploading those 5 days a week per se, but you can probably expect like 7 to 10 videos a week on my channel, just because you're guaranteed the 5 shorts. I have editors who work on that for me, who've been great, by the way. So yeah, I've been getting 5 shorts out. I think I have my shorts for the next like 2 weeks scheduled and ready to go anyways. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like I really wanted to focus on pushing out content and giving people what they want to see. Like my thing is I get kind of bored and I'm on YouTube a lot. So when like there's no content for me to watch, I'm like, damn, like I want something. So I really wanted to take that experience, my own experience, and then like, you know, if someone else were like, let's say a fan of my channel, I didn't want them to go like 4 or 5 days without seeing a video on my channel, right? So yeah, I've been pushing out content.
Oh, 100%, man. That's one of the things I've appreciated about your channel for the longest time, like since I started watching you, is that you're just always on that grind game. And it's something that like not a lot of people, like they'll try it, but they won't be able to stick with it. Like they burn out so quickly. So the fact that you found a way to be able to do it so consistently is really nice. I mean, yeah, you're sacrificing not being able to do long form content every day, but that would just be utterly exhausting, like beyond belief.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing for like 4 months, and I was or 5 months, I think, and I was like, dang, like this is a lot. Like it takes a lot out of you, especially with the like I don't have editors that do my long form content. My editors only work on my shorts.
Oh, gotcha.
So for me, I'm like, man, filming every single day, editing every single day, even trying to do it in bulk. Like I would have to prep 4 or 5 videos and maybe like film them all on a Saturday and then spend Sunday editing like 3 or 4 of them for the week. Like it took a lot out of me, and definitely it is burnout is definitely something that you have to be like anyone who wants to create content. Burnout is definitely something that people have to be aware of. I got lucky in the sense where I don't think it hit me until like 5 or 6 months later where I started to feel the burnout. But instead of just, you know, stopping and just being like, okay, I'm burnt out, I'll see you guys in like 3 months, right? I was kind of like, okay, how do I do this more strategically? And so what happened was there was a regional going on, and my kind of shorts, I don't know if you've ever seen my shorts, but my kind of shorts, I try to create them for the most part where they're not really just in the moment kind of shorts. I really want them to kind of be evergreen content, which I know with Yu-Gi-Oh! It's very difficult to do evergreen content just because the game is just always evolving and expanding. But one thing I tried to do, for example, I tried to take that formula that people would take on like TikTok and whatnot, where it's kind of like they would go and do what I like to call it pedestrian kind of videos, where you go to random people, ask them questions, get their opinions, etc., etc. And I feel like those kind of videos, if you ever see on my channel, you can watch them now, you can watch them in 2 years, and they're relevant. Like one of my questions was, or one of my shorts, for example, was what is the best Yu-Gi-Oh card rarity of all time, right? And then I went around to random people asking, you know, what they think the best rarity is, or what is the best Yu-Gi-Oh deck of all time. And I go out to random people at regional events, and I asked them those kind of questions. Like the one where it's like, what is the best Yu-Gi-Oh deck of all time has like 59K views on it right now, right? And you can watch that in 2 years, and people are still gonna want to watch that kind of video. Yes, maybe some of the decks have changed, but in general, you can watch this kind of stuff. Or one of my videos was like, would you take $1 or a free Yu-Gi-Oh card from a mystery box, right? And then people would pick up like random mystery cards, right? Again, that's kind of me trying to be and think outside of the box and be more evergreen with the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh content that I'm making. And on top of that, the really nice thing is when you go to a regional, like I went to, I think my regional in I want to say February, and I think I filmed like 18 shorts that day. So that's like 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks worth of content for shorts that I just filmed in a single day. And it took me maybe like 2 hours at most to film it all.
That's impressive, yeah.
As long as you prep beforehand, like as long as you prep the questions and you prep kind of where you want to go with it beforehand, like it becomes pretty simple to do to get all this kind of content. And I think it's entertaining. I think it's something that no one in the scene does right now. Like I haven't seen a single person like do this kind of pedestrian kind of content with shorts in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to be like a pioneer in that sense, and I really wanted to be the first kind of guy to do it. And I mean, it's working out for me. So I'm having fun doing it too. I meet a lot of random people. A lot of people look at me funny and they're like, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he going around to random people asking them questions with like a mic in his hand? I think that's part of the thrill though, low key. Like part of it is kind of like, part of it is like, I'm nervous. I'm like, oh, I don't know this person. They don't know me. And I'm just going up to them being like, hey, yo, do you want to answer a question for a free mystery card? And they look at me like, what is this guy on? And I'm like, you know, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, but I think it helps the community come together as well. You know, get people out of their comfort zone a little bit, and then just people have fun with it. So,
well, like there's so many hidden things that type of content does for you as well, because it's like it's not only showing that you're an active member of the community, but you're going to these events. It's building up your credibility in the background, saying like, hey, I'm a competitive player. I am showing up to these events. I have reasons to say what I say in these videos. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
a double push for you.
it is. And one thing I've noticed as well is so a couple people when I did that, when I first started doing that pedestrian kind of content, going up to random people, is I think they would see themselves on camera and get excited. They're like, wait, I'm in like a Yugi tuber's video. Like, and not to say that I'm the biggest Yugi tuber or anything like that. I'm definitely not. But
Right.
like it's kind of cool when you're just a guy, just at an event, just chilling, whatever, and then you find yourself on a video that went viral, and then you're like, wait, you kind of get that sense where it's like, wait, I kind of went viral. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of cool. Like one guy came up to me, or one guy I went up to at my first regional that I started doing this. 2 regionals later, saw me, and he didn't know how to answer one of the questions I asked him. So 2 regionals later, he like yelled across the room, and he just yelled the answer. I was like, what? He's like, yo, Spanko, and then he just yelled the answer, and I'm like, oh, there you go. Like, it was kind of like forming that kind of relationship with people as well.
Right.
So
yeah, no, that's
yeah,
super awesome. So now I'm curious because like shorts are kind of known as this fleeting content in general. Like it's something that people just scroll through like TikTok, and then it just kind of gets forgotten after a while. Do you actually like? I'm just genuinely curious here. Do you think your shorts have a chance to actually have that evergreen life to them, where people will come back down the line and watch them, like go out of their way to watch shorts?
So I don't. Well, yes and no. So some of them, for example, like I've been doing some deck profile shorts where it's like obviously those kind of videos are something people might be able to go back to just because it's a deck profile. But again, with deck profiles, when new support comes out or new ban lists or new cards come out, the things change, right? So
Yeah.
deck profile content is always sort of evergreen, because even if you don't have the exact list that you want to play post a certain ban list or post a certain new set, etc., you can kind of have that skeleton, right? Which is really nice. But yeah, I think some of the things like where I was talking about like the pedestrian content, I think some of these are like really funny, the way people react and stuff. So it maybe not evergreen in the sense of, hey, I want to go back and watch this video every 2 weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you could watch the video now and you can watch it in like 3 months, and you can watch it in a year, and it'd be like the same kind of entertainment value, and it doesn't feel outdated, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of where I was aiming for the shorts. Shorts are always all over the place. Like there's some shorts that pop off, and there's some shorts that don't do well at all. And sometimes the good ones that you thought are more entertaining don't actually do that well, and you think some of the ones that are kind of like boring and stuff just pop off. They're all over the place. Shorts are an algorithm that I've yet to understand. There's definitely things that I see on my channel that do better than others, but that only maybe specifically for my channel, right? So there's no actual formula that I can like. I don't like gatekeeping. Like I like giving people, like, if you want to start a channel and you guys want to do shorts content, like I'll give you all the advice I can. I don't like, I'm not the kind of guy who gatekeeps, but there's really no formula to this. It's really just throw content out there and something is gonna pop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. And honestly, like shorts are a thing that YouTube is still trying to figure out themselves. Like everyone's in the race to try to catch up with TikTok and their formula. Yeah. And YouTube just hasn't quite nailed it yet. So we do get a lot of situations like this where you'll have videos pop off, and then others that you thought would are just dead. It's really weird to see, but I think they just need more time to kind of fix it out. And now with these shorts, are you also uploading them to TikTok, or is it just purely staying on YouTube?
So it's funny. I should be I should be uploading them on TikTok, and I should be uploading them on Instagram as well. If you really want to make the most out of them, you got to upload them everywhere.
Oh yeah.
But what happens is, because I have editors who do my shorts on YouTube, you can give permission. So the really nice thing I like about YouTube is you can give permissions to people. So I gave permissions to my editors so that they can upload shorts, and they can do the optimization, all that kind of stuff, without them actually having access to my channel, right? They don't have access all to my analytics. They don't have access to all my personal data. Whereas with Instagram and TikTok, they don't have those kind of things where you can give permissions to people. You actually have to give them your account. And obviously I have like private conversations, privacy information, etc., that you don't want to necessarily share with everyone. And it's not to say that I don't trust my editors. Like I do trust them, but it's like, yeah, it feels weird giving out a personal thing to people, like where they can just check everything they want to check, right?
Yeah.
So basically they told me they would do it for me, but I just kind of told them like, nah, don't worry about it, I'll do it myself. And then I guess I got so used to them uploading my shorts every day to YouTube where I'm like, I don't want to have to download them and then go post them on Insta, post them on TikTok. So it's me. I've been kind of lazy, but you definitely should.
No, man, I totally feel that. And honestly, yeah, the manager thing on YouTube is really cool. I'm in that same situation as well because I'm not the head of Fusion YGO. I just edit for him, but and make content, of course. But yeah, no, I totally get that. That makes a lot of sense. I get that way too. I'm behind on just making short content in general. It's something I've been trying to dabble with forever. But with the stuff that we normally make, I just haven't like been able to find the right thing to do for shorts yet. So I mean, what you've presented is definitely really cool. If I went to in-person events, I would definitely consider it. I am unfortunately stuck at home, but it is what it is.
There's always different ways to make content, right?
Yeah,
like I do
100%.
Yeah, I do like mini vlogs here and there as well. Like, what I like to do is I like to go to like local card shops that maybe are not the most popular or don't get the most attention. So what I like to do is I'll go there and I'll just do a quick little vlog, but it's like a short video, right? Whereas like I kind of just take quick like B-roll of like their showcase, their product, or whatever they got, and then kind of just quickly voice over it and just say like, hey guys, today I'm checking out this store and this store has some really cool this and blah 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 kind of thing, right? So I feel like you just have to experiment with content. Content's all over the place and you never know what people want to watch.
Oh yeah, no, it's weird. Well, like I was telling Nova in that podcast that you were listening to earlier, I don't know if you made it far enough. I had the most random video on the channel pop off. It was literally like a stream highlight for me playing Master Duel, and I got hand looped by a hero deck. So I'm like, okay, whatever, it's funny, I'll throw it on the channel. Got like 20 views in the first day. I was like, all right, whatever. And it just happened to be the right timing that Joseph MBT went to the YCS that weekend and played heroes on live stream. Yeah. So then everybody's searching hero videos, and I wake up Monday morning and it's at 2,500. I'm like, what happened? It was the weirdest thing.
That's the thing with YouTube though, right? Like I think that's kind of some of it is like kind of the beauty of it, where it's kind of like, if I watch my video, and this is something that it's kind of toxic, like I'll drop a video and I'll just start looking at the analytics. I'm like, okay, it didn't do as well as my other videos in the first 2 hours kind of thing, blah, blah, blah. It is kind of toxic, but then after a while, you just ignore it. And then you look back and you're like, wait, why is this video randomly at 5K views now? Like, and just YouTube is definitely not something that, no matter how much people want to tell you they figured it out and they've done all that, no one has. I don't think even YouTube themselves have figured it out, right? It just happens.
It's so all over the place, and it's a matter of the audience too. Like that's like people are always talking about the algorithm. It's like, well, your audience is the one giving you the views, so it's a matter of how they change and how they interact with it.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was a year and a half ago. Early 2022, there was like a month on my channel where my views were just garbage. Like there was just nothing I could do to get these views up, and I was like, "What is going on here? Something like did my channel get like what is it called, shadow banned or whatever?"
Shadow banned, yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I was like, so I actually went to YouTube themselves and I contacted like content creator support or whatever, and I was like, guys, what's going on? Like I've been uploading like 3 videos a week, 2 videos, whatever, and these videos are just doing trash. And they actually hit me with the, well, if you look at these analytics, your video has actually been shown to people as much as they've always been shown. They just basically told me no one's clicking your videos. So I was like, dang, it's disheartening. But at the same time, you think about it and you're like, well, that's just the reality of YouTube. Sometimes it's not even just the algorithm. It's like it's the algorithm, but there's also the human factor where it's kind of like people just don't want to watch this right now. Maybe in a month or two it'll blow up, but right now people don't want to watch it. So yeah, it's always all over the place.
Well, that's why if you watch the good informative channels that actually like teach you properly how to grow on YouTube, a lot of them, they're also talking pretty high into like titles and thumbnails because that's what's going to make people want to click. Well, now you have extra stuff. Like if you hover over a video, you get the first 15 seconds as a preview, but so it's like you have all these other things to consider outside of just like, oh, what tags am I going to use? What words am I going to put in the title for people to search and things like that. It's like there's so many things that come into play now that it's like anyone's game. You really could just throw stuff at a board and end up getting a banger and you don't even know it.
Yeah, it's really all over the place. And it's funny because like there's some videos that I see that have like what I think is like crazy thumbnails, like really nice thumbnails. But they don't necessarily do well. And then there's some videos I see like, and again, I'm not trying to sneak diss anyone, but there's some videos I definitely see with the thumbnails, and they're kind of mid. They're just a picture with like random text on it, and then it's like 20K views. I'm like, how did this video get a lot of clicks?
Right.
Like, who decided to click this thumbnail, right? Not, and again, not to be rude to anyone, but there's definitely like different qualities of thumbnails I've seen, and it's just crazy that sometimes even if you optimize it as best as you can, you know, put colors on the thumbnail, different dimensions, great quality, etc., and then a thumbnail that just says, "This is a cool Yu-Gi-Oh deck," gets like 20,000 views, and you're like, okay, man, what am I supposed to do? Like, what are you supposed to do at that point?
Yeah, it's definitely weird. Your thumbnail game is great though, man. Honestly, like that's one of the things that catches me every time is your thumbnails are pretty fire, and they're so simple too. Like I'm looking at these, and as a guy who's been making content for 13 years and has like all this film industry experience and whatnot, like they're pretty good for, once again, just how simple they are. Like it looks like you've got about 3 images on average per thumbnail.
Yeah, I try to keep it simple, especially because I know with my kind of content, when it's a deck profile, I feel like people don't need to see a million things.
Right.
I feel like, and this is maybe it's just me, but I just feel like, you know, if I'm looking at let's say a Dino deck profile, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thought process is, okay, can I see a Dino card on the thumbnail? What is this video about? So like my most recent Dino video was a competitive OTK build of Dino where it was kind of like pure.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't want to put any scrap stuff on there because it's a pure list. It's definitely a post SIAC list, so I put like a little quick post SIAC there. Like, I don't know, my thumbnails aren't super like complicated or anything, very simplistic, but I just try to make them like to the point. This is what you want to see. Boom.
Yeah, no, I mean, it just gets straight to the point, shows off everything you need. And I'm going to be honest, when I was like working on trying to up my thumbnail game, because when I first got into Yu-Gi-Oh, I was bad with thumbnails. But as I was trying to progress with them, I went to yours a lot for inspiration. I'm not going to lie.
Nah, thank you. No, but like I'm even looking at yours, and I think yours are really good. Like I really like this. I was defeated until I wasn't, the scrap build. Like I really like a lot of these thumbnails. I think they're really cool. Or just like this goes hard. That one is really nice, actually. What is that? The Rescue Ace support? Yeah, that's a really nice.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, no, they've gotten much better lately. It's just like as I was getting to that point, like even if you look on my original channel, the Havre card man, they're bad. Like there was some that I was like, okay, they're all right, but for the most part, I'm not too happy with them. I was like just starting to learn Photoshop and all this and that, so it was really weird. But
so yeah, you really gotta experiment.
Yeah, no, it takes forever to figure this stuff out. Like I can't even, I don't even know how long I've been working on it at this point, but so what kind of programs do you use for your stuff? I'm just curious, actually.
So for thumbnails, I actually just use an online editor. It's called Photor.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like Canva. I really like it. It's very easy to use. It's free.
Okay.
Nice. You know, you penny pinch where you can.
Yep.
And for editing, I actually just use so it depends on the kind of editing. Like I'll sometimes go, I'm not a great editor, I'll be honest with you. I kind of suck at editing. So for my deck profiles, luckily deck profiles don't take much editing. Really it's just cuts. So yeah, I use iMovie, to be honest with you, because I have a Mac. So I use iMovie to edit all my deck profiles, and then stuff that requires a little bit more editing, sometimes I'll just throw it off to my editors. So yeah, it's kind of nice that I got like, so my good friend actually owns an editing company where he does YouTube editing for like a ton of different creators. So I kind of just reached out to him, and he gave me like a good price and everything, you know, family and friends discount.
Yeah.
So anything that's a little bit more complicated, I just throw to them, and I kind of just give them quick instructions of like kind of what my vision is. And they've been really good with it. They're really good with, you know, putting stuff together. And then if there's something I don't necessarily like, or I don't feel like is like where I want it to be, I can always just send them quick messages. They're very communicative and stuff, which is really nice. So yeah, I feel like it is a little bit of an investment, but if you do invest in like sometimes these editors, it can be pretty beneficial. Although I don't ask my editors to do like Team Sam level editing, because first of all, that's really expensive, first of all, right? Like that kind of editing would be like pricey, and I still need to make a little bit of money on my YouTube videos. But yeah, Team Sam's like, his stuff is next level. Like one day I aspire to be his level of like production.
Yep. Say if I
But
remember right, I think for most of those videos, he hires like half a dozen editors, and he ends up losing money on those videos.
yeah, there's some videos that definitely I see. I'm like, okay, there's no way he made money on these. But then again, like he also there's definitely some videos where I see he does like deck profiles, and I'm like, okay, well, this was a free video that
Right,
cost
yeah.
nothing to edit, right? And then, so yeah, YouTube is definitely up and down. You really got to take your wins and losses where you can, especially monetarily. And I think like money is something that people don't like to talk about on YouTube, but it does matter, right? Like if I'm going minus $100 per video, let's just say, like you know, I'm gonna be broke by the time I become anything on YouTube.
Right, right.
So
Well,
yeah,
it's
you
like,
gotta be smart with it.
yeah, well, it's like even for smaller channels that are like just starting to make money and whatnot, and like they're still working normal jobs and everything, those few extra bucks can help you reinvest into the channel so you can grow even bigger too. Is another thing a lot of people like forget. Like, yeah, you're not making full time off of it yet, but you can reinvest that money to be able to do better.
So that's a great point because that's exactly what I did. So for the first year and a half or 2 years on my channel, I was like low quality editing, quick iMovie, quick edits. And I did a lot of deck profiles again, which was nice because you know those kind of things, you know, don't need much editing anyway. So what I did was when I started to make money, I would just save it up and I would just be like, okay, this is YouTube money, and YouTube money goes back into YouTube for me until this becomes a full-time thing. Everything I make on YouTube, I really want to put back into YouTube. So yeah, that's a great point that you made because for me, I didn't have an editor until like the last maybe 3 months ago. I started getting an editor,
Oh,
and the
okay.
only reason I could, the reason like I still have a full-time job, like I still work outside of YouTube, right? So for me, it's like when I started to make enough money where I'm like, okay, now everything I make off of YouTube, like I'm not making much of a profit off of YouTube, to be honest with you. Sometimes I actually take losses on some months because of my editors. But for me, that loss of like, you know, $50 or whatever is worth it when it's gonna correlate to you know like 5,000 subs, like or like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 new subscribers, because I know eventually that all money is gonna come back to me, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a content creator, anyone who's listening, yeah, definitely just save up your money as you go, and then use that money to go put back into YouTube, and then eventually that money is gonna pay off. I think even now, like you know, I'm seeing really good months now where I'm happy where I'm at, and so yeah, that only came because everything I made off of YouTube, I just put back into YouTube.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely good advice. Like I'm on the end of the spectrum that's I'm way down in the hole for it. It's gonna take forever before I return on my investment. Like I'm probably staring down about $10,000 plus of equipment.
Dang.
Not
Wait,
to mention all,
like
yeah,
cameras and stuff?
yeah, cameras, lights, computer, monitor, mic, soundboard, all this stuff, man. I'm decked out. Way further
Okay,
than
well,
it should be.
that's pretty cool though. You can use that for other things at least, right?
Oh yeah, no, well, the reason I got the majority of it to begin with was for filmmaking, because when I got this stuff, I was an indie filmmaker. I was trying to actually do like short films and things like that. So that's primarily what it's for, and now it's just used for Yu-Gi-Oh content.
Listen, the money will come back to you soon. Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah. Well, and then I also have a bunch of other things, like I have the full Adobe Creative Cloud, so I've got Photoshop, Premiere Pro, After Effects, all that good stuff. And then I pay subscriptions for all these other royalty sites like Storyblocks and Artlist, and there's a lot of money sunk into it, but I really go around a lot, and I'm trying to do other editing work for other channels. Like of course at one point I did it for Nova for a while. I've done a couple videos for a couple other channels. Like I'm kind of a freelance on the side on top of doing SpankoYGO, so it's been a fun time. It's good to have, but it's definitely not the cheap way.
No, definitely not cheap. Definitely a little bit pricey. But the thing with equipment is like equipment is always everlasting, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's not like you're spending it on, and like I hate to say it, but the thing with this game is like you can spend a lot of money on cards that like deep dive in value. Like you can spend $100 on a card. Like remember when Fenrir's were like 70 to 80 bucks a pop, and they're like 20s now. 25.
Yeah, I just bought two Fenrir's for 35 a piece. Ulti Fenrir's for 35 a piece.
So there you go. The Ulti Fenrir's are 35. I remember Ultras were like 70 at one point, right? So
yeah,
at least you're not throwing all your money into stuff that is not going to hold its value. Like if you're throwing your money, or I don't want to say throwing, but if you're putting your money into equipment, I feel like that's like a long-term investment, and those things are fine to put your money into, right?
Oh yeah. And I mean, it upgrades the content level, the whole quality and everything. And there's definitely a lot of people that appreciated it. Like that was one of the first things that got pointed out when I started on the Havre Cardman is people were praising my quality before I even used a camera or anything. I was just going like all digital stuff, but it goes a long way. I'm not saying like definitely don't focus on the gear. That's not like the primary thing, but as you get like a few bucks here and there, upgrading the quality does help.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Let's see here. I lost my notes. There we go. So now this is just another curiosity thing. What does your general process look like for making your videos? Do you like dive a lot into like theory on deck building, or are you just kind of like throwing together stuff? What does it look like?
Yeah, so for deck profiles specifically, well, so for the other stuff like vlogs and stuff, that's all like really spontaneous. It just kind of
Right.
whatever happens is going on. So there's not too much planning that goes into those kind of things. But with deck profiles, yeah, I definitely do a lot of planning. I do a lot of deck building on the side, and obviously I can't test every single deck always. You know, like
Yeah.
I do have decks that I play personally that I know I obviously have more knowledge about. But for example, like I did a Grand Maju kind of deck profile the other day, right? And
Yeah.
I know how Grand Maju works. I've played Grand Maju before, and it's one of those things where I'm not going to take that to like 4 locals to be like, okay, I've now perfected the build. But I definitely go online. I make the builds. I test with a couple friends, and I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable with this build. Let me put it online because I really don't want to give out bad content. Like anything I make, I really want people to be able to actually use and play and be successful and happy with it. And again, because my whole thing is rogue decks that you can try to play competitively, it is tough. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think I always give people this expectation where it's kind of like, listen, you guys are still playing a rogue deck, but if you guys want to play it as competitively as possible and still have fun and do some really cool things, this is how I think you should play it, right? And so it's one of those things where the other day, I think, it wasn't the other day, actually, it was like 2 months ago, but I think I posted like a shark deck profile where like it's like 1.5 cards makes like double toad plus F0. And
wow.
some guy commented on the video. Yeah, it's a pretty cool combo, but again, it's a rogue deck, right? Like it
Yeah.
loses
Yeah.
to a lot if your opponent opens like 2-3 hand traps, But yeah, I think someone commented on the video. I'm trying to find it now, but I think someone commented on the video and said, "Hey, I actually took this to locals. I went X1 in 5 rounds today." And I'm like, "See, that's the whole point of what I'm trying to do. Like, I try to make these decks where, listen, you're not gonna go to locals and go X1 every single time, but it's definitely a thing that you guys can take and be successful with, which is really nice. And again, that's why I do put time into my deck profiles, and I do a lot of theory crafting behind my lists and why I play what I play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of the other stuff like pack openings is just on the fly. Yeah, you know how pack openings are, right?
Oh yeah.
If you
Yeah.
pull good,
Yeah.
you pull good. If you don't pull good, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I totally feel that.
Yeah, so that's kind of how my process with videos goes. It's really a lot of behind the scenes. The actual filming of the deck profile is not that much work. If I'm doing it, like if I have the cards, I like to do them in person with the actual cards. I feel like visually it looks nicer, and I feel like people actually like that kind of content more. But then, if I don't have the cards, there's nothing wrong with going online and showing a deck profile on like YGO Pro or Dueling Book or something like that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'll do that, and then I'll just quickly explain the cards. So the deck profile itself, when I'm doing the video, takes, for me at least, not that much effort. I'm just sitting there talking about why I built what I built,
Mm-hmm.
and I built it, so I should be able to talk about it, right? It's all the pre-planning, I think, that takes the most effort.
Yeah, no, all that deck building in theory definitely takes forever. Do you have like a dedicated testing group then or anything, or do you just kind of like whoever's available, you'll just grab them and be like, hey, let's go play this for a little bit?
I don't have like a dedicated group, I guess I could say. I have like 3 guys that like through me and my 3 like really close friends, we just hop on Discord and we'll be like, yeah, let's test this, right? So I usually use them. But then if they're not available, I'm usually on like YGO Pro when I do these things. So what I'll like to do is I'll go test hands and do some like quick test hands, see how consistent it is, see where I can combo, how I can combo. And then if no one's available, I'll literally just go into the server and just test it out against a couple people.
Okay.
And then go from there. So yeah, I try to make, obviously sometimes people are busy. I can't get my friend group all the time.
Right.
When
Yeah.
they're available, it's nice. But then otherwise, like, yeah, I'll just go online myself and test it out.
I mean, that's totally fair. Honestly, there's a lot of days where I don't like put full testing into anything. I just do like the test hands. I'm like, all right, this hand looks consistent. I'm drawing hand traps with it. I have full combo. I have some ways I can play through common hand traps, and it's kind of gotten boring for me. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely need to start like playing more. Like I've already burnt myself out on Gold Pride Punk just because all I do is I just do test hands with it. I don't find the time to actually go on and like do test games against people. It's weird.
Man, I was playing against Gold Pride Punk the other day. Off no, but I was playing against it the other day at locals, and I'm like, man, why does this deck actually do stuff?
It's nuts, but it doesn't do everything. It just does a lot. It's interesting.
It does a lot, and then they just randomly always have access to Psychic and Punisher. It's like, I finally have the advantage on you, and they're like, well, I'm actually gonna make Psychic End. Now what?
Yeah,
And you're like, come on, man, come on. I don't know. That deck is kind of crazy.
it's nice. It's definitely a lot of fun.
I think post ban list. Again, I know this is kind of like a side note that we're talking about, but I think post ban list, whenever we do end up getting that ban list, I feel like that deck's going to be pretty good because I know Purely is going to be good, super heavy, of course, but yeah, post ban list once Kostra is gone, I feel like the Punk Gold Pride is actually going to be a really good deck.
Sad part is I've actually been, and I know it's not like an accurate representation of our format, but I've been watching the OCG format. And Super Heavy Samurai actually isn't that far up there. It's Purely in MathMech taking the top spots. And I'm like, oh, please no.
Yeah, MathMech in the OCG is really, really good. I'm actually not sure why I haven't been paying too much attention to the OCG. Because Super Heavy like just feels like it's such a powerful deck. I don't know how it could not. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Oh, so I didn't see anything of theirs that was like on the ban list for that deck specifically, but I think it might just be in part to Max C, and it's like if they don't open Gamma or like a way to deal with like they have less options for Max C, might be part of it.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, we don't have Max C here, so we don't need stuff like Called By and whatnot. They specifically have to open Gamma or Ash, right?
Yeah, Gamma or Ash, yep. It's rough out there.
Yeah, here you can get away with it because there's no Max C to worry about, so I don't care if you open a hand trap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
Yeah, no, there's so many weird things, the theory of the game that you have to consider, and that's I don't usually keep track of the OCG, but for like this case, I was like, it's kind of interesting, especially because I saw Rescue Ace, and I'm like, I'm down.
Yeah, you're a Rescue Ace guy, huh?
I'm Rescue Ace, Scraps, and for a while until it got meta, Prank Kids. As soon as that deck became meta, I gave up.
Until it got meta, that's funny.
Yeah, well, I told everyone for months, I'm like, Meow Mew is a crazy card. This deck is going to be busted. Then everyone's like, nah, it's nothing. And then Adventure comes out, and everybody's like, oh, hey, Prank Kid Adventure. This deck's nuts. I'm like, wow, guys, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, it was the best deck for like a format, a little bit, like a format and a little bit. So
yeah, it was a good, solid deck. But of course, at that point, I didn't play it. I'm like, I don't want to play them meta. That's boring.
Yeah, this is boring. I want to play Rogue.
Oh, I was kind of moving on, getting off of our little Yu-Gi-Oh tangent here. What has been your favorite part so far about making content on your channel?
Man, like it's gonna sound dumb, but like everything, like making content first of all for me is fun in its own right. So just being able to go and share my ideas and put these ideas together for me, that's fun. But one thing that I love is just the feedback that I always get, right? Like when I get people saying like, I played your deck and it did really well, or like all these things. Like I don't know, for me, it's just everything surrounding it is just enjoyable. I don't know if that makes sense. Like for me, like I really have a passion for this, right? So that's really cool. And even me, like now going to events, I remember I was at Nationals last year, and someone was like, "Yo, Spanko, I'm playing your Tri Brigade list. I think it's like the best list online right now." And I'm like, "Oh, that's crazy. I'm not even playing my list right now, but whatever." Listen, no, it was a good list, but I just didn't want to play Tri Brigade, right? But it was just funny when I hear that kind of stuff. And then, and you even get the funny ones, like the funny interactions. Like I think it was like 2 months ago, I went to a regional, or 3 months ago, I think, yeah, whatever. I went to a regional, and some guy came up to me, and they were like, I can't remember what deck it was. It was, I think it might have been Draco Slayer. Because that was like newer when it first came out in Photon, I think. I can't remember which build it was. Anyways, there was a deck that I put online, and someone at a regional came up to me, and they were like, "Oh, Spanko, it's great to meet you." I'm like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." And again, that's also a really nice part of it. I do get pretty excited when when people recognize me. But yeah, they'll be like, oh, like Spanko, whatever, whatever, and they're like, oh, I'm playing your list today, and then I'm like, oh, that's crazy, and they're like, well, actually, I played your list at locals, and I went X4, so I actually changed it up completely, but it's kind of like your list, and I'm like, oh my god, I was like, what? Some guy came up to me just at regional just to tell me that my list made him go X4, and he completely changed it up. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, well,
wow.
oh well, okay, that was my reaction. I'm like, oh, nice.
I mean,
But for me, it's funny.
yeah, I mean, at least you still used your build as a base.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you're playing decks, most of the core is always going to be the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. But yeah, for me, this the all around is just really fun for me. And I grew up on this game like when I was younger, and then when I finally came back to it in 2015, it was very much just kind of like understanding. Like for me, just understanding the history of the game, everything that surrounds the game, and that's just what I fell in love with. So
Yeah.
creating content for me kind of is just the best of both worlds, where it's kind of like I can be competitive with my deck profiles and build on a competitive scene or a competitive level, but then at the same time, I can take nostalgic decks that I really love and do that with it. Like Blackwing, I remember Blackwing was like one of my favorite decks, right? And it's like now Blackwing is actually playable. Like you actually have good cards in that deck. Now, yes, it's not a meta deck, but you can still kind of be competitive with it. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that, like for me, that whole aspect is fun.
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorite decks too. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah, I'm a big Blackwing guy.
yeah, no, that's a good deck. So I guess on another note, what kind of mistakes do you like see either yourself or other similar channels in the space making that you'd like to see improved?
It's a great question, actually. So, mistakes that I see myself making, honestly, but I always try to get better with what I do. But yeah, mistakes definitely that I see myself making are when I don't like. Okay, so because I put out content, I am putting myself in the public eye, and that means if I make mistakes and I say things incorrectly, and I just build something poorly, let's just say, that's kind of when, you catch a lot of heat. So.
Oh yeah.
One thing I would say for, I guess, a quote unquote mistake is when you are going into these kind of things, you definitely need to prep. I think you can't just put it out, like, you can't just put it out there. Because at the end of the day, you are working for whoever's watching your videos, right? That's kind of how it is. Like, that's kind of the way I view it. So that's kind of part of it for me. And I feel like a mistake that a lot of people make is kind of like, I don't see myself making this mistake anymore. I remember I kind of used to when I first started, but a lot of mistakes that I see is people will complain about, oh, I did this video and it didn't do well. Everyone just hates me and my channel, blah, blah, blah. But my videos are actually the best quality ever. It's like very much not self-absorbed. I don't know what the word would be for it, but it's kind of like I do everything right and you guys are actually wrong. I feel like that mentality is very bad.
Kind of like egocentric.
Yeah, like kind of like egocentric, where it's kind of like, my video is the best video, and the only reason it didn't do well is because you guys are all sheep and you guys only watch MBT and Team Sam. And if you guys actually took the time to watch quality content, then you guys would know that I'm actually the greatest. Like that mindset, I feel like a lot of people have, and it's just bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like that mindset is something that is a mistake that a lot of people make. And I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of this scene as well is you really have to be able to criticize, take criticism first of all, but you also have to be able to criticize yourself and understand what you could do better. And I think that's one of the major mistakes in this scene, where it's like people just don't like criticism. And I know it's tough. It's rough sometimes when you put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't do well, but there's a reason it didn't do well. And I feel like those kind of things you have to take into consideration and kind of understand why it didn't do well, and then from there, that's how you get better, right? So that's something I feel like. I feel like mistakes are mostly made in the back end, because I actually feel like when you're making a video, there's not that many mistakes that can really happen, right? Unless you say something wrong. But again, that's just mistakes. That's a human error. That's anyone could say something incorrectly.
Right.
But I feel like the actual mistake is the mindset, or the actual mistake is before you actually put the video out there, right? Yeah, that's just the way I see it, because I'll see on Twitter people all the time, and no disrespect to anyone, and I don't want to be like rude or anything, but there are sometimes I'll go on like Twitter and I'll see people tweet like, guys, like my video, like it's like a woe is me kind of thing, or just like, yo, you guys need to
Yeah.
feel bad for me. Like that's not how it works, and I feel like people are not gonna see you in a light where it's kind of like, I actually pity this guy, or I actually feel bad for this guy. Let's go sub. Like that's not how it works. If your video doesn't do well, I feel like, obviously the algorithm plays a part. Not to take away that, like, algorithms and stuff do play a part,
Yeah,
but a part
yeah.
of it also at the same time, like, you know, there must be a reason. Like sometimes the reason I think some of my videos do well is because, let's say you watch my video and you're like, hey, this was actually a really good deck profile. And then someone who really wants to build, like, okay, we're talking about Blackwing, right? Let's say someone who really wants to build Blackwing, and you're like, hey, Spanko's Blackwing deck profile is actually a really good profile. And then you'll share it with someone else. And then that's kind of how the views like add up.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that you might like my profiles because I took my time behind the scenes to build the deck, test the deck, and understand the deck, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people just put content out there expecting it to do well, and then when it doesn't do well, it's everyone else's fault. And I don't think that's a good mindset to have. And I think that's the biggest mistake that I see people are like make, to be honest.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things that you could get into with like prepping before a video, like outside of just doing like a deck, like getting the deck ready and everything like that. Like, there's a lot of mental things that I think people should kind of run through at least briefly before they press record. Doing like a quick speech test just so that you're not like stumbling on your words as you're doing the video.
Yeah.
And also just kind of like having a rough idea in your mind of how you want to talk about the cards, what kind of points you want to bring up and stuff as you're going over those types of things. So that way you're not like fumbling around trying to figure out what you're going to say next. You already kind of have an idea in mind and it comes out more fluid. And then you get like more of a credential behind you because, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. He didn't have to like stop. It's just natural for him.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something that a lot of people like. That's a great point because I feel like that's a lot of things, something that a lot of people don't actually consider. Like for me, like I'll have people come up to me and they're like, "Spanko, how are you so natural with these deck profiles? How do you do these so well?" And I'm like, "You guys don't see that I actually do this like 3 times before you guys see it on YouTube.
Yep.
Like there are times where I'll like explain something in a deck." And I'll be like, okay, this is a decent explanation, but let me see if I could say it better. And then I'll do the same line or the same take like 3 times, and then I'm like, okay, whatever the best one ends up being is what I'll put on YouTube, and I'll edit it in, right? And then
Yep.
I'll edit all the other ones out. And I feel like a lot of people don't see that aspect. They just think that I hop on, turn on a camera, and I just go, right? Where it's like, yeah. So in my case, because I do the deck profiles, yeah, I do a lot of testing of the deck profiles beforehand. But it's kind of like what you said, where it's like it's not just testing the deck. Now it's like when I'm explaining the deck, am I explaining it well? Am I saying the things that I need to say? Am I making sense with what I'm saying, etc.? So yeah, you make a really great point there because I feel like a lot of people don't see the actual behind the scenes where this 10-minute video actually took me like 25 minutes to film or 20 minutes to film, whatever. And 50% of it is just redoing takes or fixing things I wanted to say, etc. So yeah, you make a really good point there where people really have to be very self-aware when they're making these kind of videos.
Right. Well, that's the good thing about good polished content anyways, is that you don't want it to be noticeable that there was like all that extra that went behind the scenes. You want it to feel like a fluid thing. And sometimes you have to put in the extra effort to do that, like by just repeating a couple of things but saying it in a different way or just trying to say it more fluidly. Like what I like to do sometimes is I'll just do a run through just to get it all out of my system, get all the fumbles out. I get more of a streamlined idea in my head. So when I go back through to do it, yeah, I might have to do a couple of retakes here and there, but it's a lot easier because, oh, I've already been through this before. And then I'm also kind of like editing in my head as I'm doing that because I'm like, okay, I brought up these points the last run through, but they're kind of moot. I don't need to bring them up, so I'm just going to skip them this time. And then you get more concise videos out of it too that are going to allow people to stay engaged more, because that's another thing. When people stay on one card for like 5 minutes, I'm like, dude, I get it. I know what the card does. Please move on. People spend way too much time on one thing, and it's annoying.
Yeah, 100%. And I know sometimes that there are certain cards that need to be explained a little bit more than others, but I feel like there are ways. It's exactly what you said. Like if I just sit there with a card in front of you, like I don't want to stare at this one card for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like at least do other, like if you're explaining certain combos with a certain card, right? You can at least pull out the other cards and kind of show how the combo works or do a quick breakdown. Or you have to really be creative with this kind of stuff. You are right. Like the attention is people's attention span is very important when you're creating these kind of things.
Right. Well, because of that, I'm starting to test out more, and I want to do it more often. I'm testing out my profiles where like I want to go through and just do the card by card right at the beginning. Take like 2 minutes, just go through the card by card, be like, hey, these are my ratios. That way people that just want that, get in, get out. And they love it a lot more. But then the people that still want like the explanation of why I'm playing certain cards or like why they're at certain ratios, things like that, or the interactions of the deck, after I do the card by card, then I just like lay all the cards out and I'm like, all right, these cards are here together for this reason. And like I'll separate them out. Like it was something like Gold Pride Punk, like I'll separate out the engines. So I'll have Gold Pride and Punk in different spots, be like, these are how these cards interact together. And then I'll show like the non-engine, be like, this is why I'm playing this format. I do a breakdown of the deck after I've already shown the ratios, so I don't need to like go through it while I'm showing the deck, so it's a little bit more streamlined. People can get exactly what they want out of the video, whether it's just for the ratios or if they want to understand how the deck is supposed to interact.
You know, I actually really like that. I might start doing that myself. Sorry.
No, definitely try it out, man. Go ahead, try it out. I want to see more people do this, because with attention spans the way they are, I think this would help so many people. Just be able to like, all right, I got the deck, now I'm gonna go test it out myself, or oh, I don't quite understand this, I want to get a little more on it.
Yeah, and another thing, just because I just said that I might steal that idea, I feel like a lot of people also need to try and do is or not try and do per se, but I think really taking ideas from different places and trying to forming it into your own is pretty important. And I think it's kind of cool. Like you just shared that perspective with me, which I've never even considered before. And I'm like, yo, that's actually, I think, a really good idea. That might be something that, you know, I can consider. And I feel like a lot of people are so, and again, this comes back to the whole mistakes thing, where it's like a lot of people are so stuck in their ways where it's like, no, I do it this way. It's like, you know, that's not necessarily the mindset to have, right? So, yeah, no, I like that. I think I might try that actually in the future as well. Just go through a quick, you know, deck profile and then afterwards kind of do the explanation.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, just mention it at the beginning. Be like, hey, if you guys want the cards, it's going to be the first 2 minutes. If you want the explanation, there you go. And I tried forever to fix that problem. Like, there were so many other things that I did for a couple of years. Like, there was a point in time where I tried, like, when I would do in person, like, actual cardboard deck profiles, I would show off the cards and I would, like, have a list on the side of the screen so that as I put new cards out front, I would just add, like, their name and their ratio to the list on the side. So that way people just wanted to skip to a certain point and just see the list and, like, copy it all down. It was a lot easier. Or if they still wanted to just watch it through, they could have that on there and be like, how many copies of this was he playing again? So like that was kind of my theory with that for a while, but that one didn't really do that well because they still have to like skim through the video and find out exactly what they need.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fit everything on the screen all at once. You're not going to be able to fit a whole deck list on there without taking up the whole thing. So,
yeah, and it gets like messy and stuff.
Yeah, so I cut that out, and then I'm trying this one out. Like I said, I want to test it a bit more. I think I've only done it a couple times so far, but I think it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, on paper it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to mention, which is kind of on this topic, but kind of off topic, but it kind of ties in together. I get a lot of comments on my videos. Where people are like, can you put the YDK deck list, or can you type out the entire deck list in the comments or in the description? Listen, viewers, I love you guys, and I wouldn't be here without you guys today. But I am going to tell you, I will never do that, because I need you guys to watch the videos. I can't have you guys just go online or go press my video, copy and paste the deck list onto YGO Pro, and I can't.
Yeah.
So, sorry guys, I love you, but that's not happening.
Oh, and I love it. We actually had somebody comment on one of our deck profiles a couple months ago. They're like, where's the deck list? And then Patrick, the guy who runs the channel, just responded, in the video that you're watching. Like...
Yeah, no, I feel like people have to understand there is like it does suck, and you do want to do as much as you can for the viewers, but there is a give and take. Like if I just give you guys like paper deck lists that you guys can just copy and paste, you're never gonna watch my videos, and if you don't watch my videos, then I can't continue to create videos.
Right. Yeah. No.
Right?
That is something people need to understand. It's like your views are the majority of our support, unless we're doing stuff like Twitch or even like super chat stuff on YouTube. You know, like there's not a whole lot of monetization around here unless you get really creative and out of the box.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's a lot with YouTube, man. Like I'm just us talking about it now. It's kind of like there are, and I can understand why it's difficult for some people to get into it, because there is a million different things that you have to be aware of, right, at all times. Yeah. But again, it just comes up with testing. You just keep testing, and then eventually it'll pay off.
You really do have to enjoy it if you want to stick with it. It has to be something you actively enjoy doing. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you're just gonna hate yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. You really have to have, and it's kind of like what we talked about at the beginning of our conversation today, where it's like, really, if you do have passion for it, um, I feel like people will see that passion, right? Like
Yeah.
if you really do have passion for what you do, people will see that passion, and then people will, you know, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? It's like vibe with that, not vibe. They'll really like
They'll resonate, I think. Is what you're looking for.
resonate. That's a
Yeah.
great word. Yes, resonate. They'll resonate with that passion, right? And then they'll feel it, and then they can go from there. So yeah, I feel like it's definitely something. At the end of the day, if you guys enjoy it, people will see that you enjoy it. And if you and anyone who wants to be a content creator, again, back to the whole mistakes thing. If you're sitting there thinking that it's everyone's fault except yours, people will also feel that, right? People will feel that from your energy, and that's why sometimes people won't be as successful as they think they'll be or you want to be necessarily. So
Right.
yeah, it really just comes down to loving the game and just doing everything you can.
Yep, 1,000%. And honestly, be willing to try other things, because sometimes it might not be that you don't like content creation. Sometimes it might be you just don't like the thing you're creating content about, or you don't like creating content about that thing specifically. Like this is I lost count exactly. I think it's around the 12th channel I've been on. At least that I've actively been a part of FusionYGO, and this is the first time I've actually been able to stay consistent with something. Like even on the Havre Cardman doing my own content for Yu-Gi-Oh!, I burnt out and gave up all the time. Like I'd be gone for like 3-4 months at a time, just not uploading anything because I just didn't want to do it. But you know, I found the right group. I found the right type of content that I wanted to do, and it's been something I've been able to stick with and enjoy consistently for quite a while. Whereas like everything else I've done, I had those periods where I wouldn't put out anything. I'd get disheartened, I'd get burnt out, and I just wouldn't want to keep doing it. And I realized it was because of the type of content I was making, not the fact that I was making content.
Yeah, and that's definitely something. That's actually a great point you make, because that's definitely something that I've seen even with my friends. I have close friends who started creating content, and then after a little bit, they're like, "Oh, I kind of don't like this," right? And like for example, like one of my friends, he started doing deck profiles because I guess he saw that I was doing deck profiles and they were doing well. And stuff. So he started doing deck profiles, and after a while, he's like, I don't think content creation is for me." And I'm like, "Are you sure content creation is not for you, or is it just making deck profiles that's not for you?" Because for me, I love creating different decks. I love making new decks. But if that's not what you love to do, then why are you making that kind of content, right? And it kind of came down to, if it's kind of like the Nim thing, right? Like remember when Nim created sealed only, like that in its time was one of one, right?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, like no one has ever done anything like sealed only before that. So the only reason sealed only did so well is because it was a new thing that no one's ever done before, and he enjoyed creating it. You could tell, at least the first time he created sealed only, he really enjoyed creating it. So it's kind of like, if you are a new content creator or someone coming into the scene, just really find what you love to do. And if you're doing something, like if something that you love, no one else has really touched on before, then it can kind of have that sealed only effect, where it's kind of like maybe it pops off like sealed only did, right? Or even if it doesn't pop off, like at least people will feel that you're really enjoying it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot that you can experiment with, and don't be afraid. Like don't be afraid to experiment.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we're kind of closing out on the hour mark, but before we head out, do you have any final thoughts or advice for anybody trying to get in the content creator scene?
Just do it. I don't know if that makes sense, but like you literally just have to do it. You really just have to push yourself. I know people tend to like doing things the easy way, or they tend to think like, oh well, this person popped off. Why can't I pop off like them? Like, don't have that kind of mindset. Mindset is everything. And I guess not just in Yu-Gi-Oh, but in life. I guess if this is life advice as well. It's definitely something that you guys need to understand, that nothing comes easy, and but it really is fun, because when you start seeing the fruits of your labor, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It feels really good. So if anyone who wants to be a content creator, just do your thing. And then one thing I like to say is quality always matters, and definitely don't skimp out on quality, but quantity in this scene does as well. And if you guys are finding it tough to do 4 or 5 long videos a week, try shorts, right? But quantity does matter, because at the end of the day, this whole YouTube scene, or any content creator, like if you're going into TikTok, whatever kind of content creation you're going into, you need people to see the videos, and the best way for people to see videos is for there to be a lot of videos to see, right? So
Yep.
yeah, that's it. Like, honestly, thank you for having me on the podcast. Thank you for letting me vent and talk and do all this and give all my little takes. I love doing this kind of stuff. I think this is fun, and maybe hopefully we do another one soon in the future.
Yeah, you bet, man. Thank you for having on, and once again, congrats on the 10K subs. That is a huge milestone, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep, and thank you guys for listening into today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and got some good insight out of it. I feel like I did, honestly. So we'll catch you guys all in the next episode. As always, good fun. Have luck.